I stayed up very late last night trying to get this video done in time for July 4th, but I could only push my voice in my laptop so hard. I was embarrassed, but I woke up this morning and I found something that made me feel really stupid. I thought, oh my God, I got myself fired from my job for nothing. They were right and they were wrong. You'll see why I felt that way when I do the video. I came on pretty strong. Now I have a feeling it's the Holy Spirit that delayed things, because this is going to make me look good. Once I looked at the data, I realized that except for a little bit of tweaking, my case against the company holds firm. They're still harassing employees as they try to get to work. All they need is someone standing by to take people's temperature in case they think they might have a fever. You know, I'm feeling a little off. That's all you need. If it weren't for the fact that I've been harassed by that African American woman who has a long history of getting in fights with people, if it weren't for that, I'd still have a job, because that brought attention into my area. This is what startled me. Hospitalizations have taken off like a rocket. Hospital beds in use by Chinese virus patients have taken off like a rocket. Average death rates are closing in to what they were in mid-May. But look closer. We opened the economy May 1st. The situation actually deteriorated for a couple of weeks, and then even more dramatically improved, and then it stalled, wobbled a bit, and then it took off again. So what happened? We reopened the bars. Most of the people in the hospitals are young people who are going to do just fine. But it did destabilize our equilibrium, and it could have swamped our hospitals. So it was a misstep. So Governor Abbott was correct to tap the brakes and have people wear masks, just as he was equally correct to make mask wearing voluntary up to that point. The data supports both. Remember, before the bars opened, death rates were dropping. So in this video, when I talk about mask wearing and obsessive surface cleaning and how dangerous it is for your health unless you're part of a vulnerable population, that stuff still holds firm. It's a very important part of my argument. Now, what would I have tweaked? I mentioned young people in the video because they were a problem, but I had no idea of the scale of the problem. And as I said, I would have backed up Governor Abbott 100%. Now, I did say in the video, I'm happy to report, one of the things that I think makes me look good, I said, perhaps Governor Abbott knows a thing or two that I don't. Well, it turns out you do. I doff my hat to you, sir. You are morally robust and mentally flexible, and I know that I can trust you. I wish that the same thing could have been said for my employers. Happy Independence Day 2020, and today I declare my independence from Black Lives Matter and the coronavirus neurosis. And I declare my public stand against all the public and private individuals who are treasonously backing these narratives up. I say this knowing that somebody has gotten to the governor of Texas. Looks like we're headed for a second lockdown. If you think that's a good idea, then show me your numbers, because I'm going to show you mine. And don't lie to me, because as you'll see, I look things up. I look into the details. I was fired from my job this week, and I am suing. My employers made it perfectly clear that working class white men like me are to toe the line without question. We are to say nothing, or we can starve in the streets. Us and our families. They've made it perfectly clear that they don't give a rat's ass which choice we make. On the other hand, they cut a check to Black Lives Matter, or one of those cry-bully organizations that like to talk trash about us with their hands out, obviously. And by coddling this behavior and engaging in an ongoing act of terrorism against white men like me with the Chinese virus, they have enabled a campaign of harassment against me in the workplace by an African American woman because I'm a white man. They fired me without talking to me face to face, even though I told two different people that we needed to do this. So it looks like we'll have to do this the hard way. Now, I call this the Chinese virus, and I speak of it as a form of terrorism. I'm not speaking out of intemperance. I'm angry, but I'm not intemperate. There's a reason why I say that. There is an ongoing problem throughout corporate America that nobody wants to talk to because, of course, we're the bad guys. Everybody blames us for everything. It's a problem of us white men being harassed by African Americans on the job, or demeaned. Now, obviously not all of them. All of them? You know I'm not saying all of them. That's just a bullshit excuse, so you don't want to have this uncomfortable conversation. I've been harassed 3 times at this job. This is the 3rd time by African Americans. One of them was by a woman who was always harassing white people. They knew it and they didn't do anything about it. Another time I quit the job. This is actually my 2nd time here, because I have an African from Africa who treated me like shit. He thought he was so much better than me. Always chose to put me in my place. Worked very hard to do that. None of these people come within 50 points of my IQ. The phrase pearl before swine should come to mind. So I was fired by a bunch of people talking about me without talking to me and talking about things of which they have no competence whatsoever to speak. They assume the basic validity without any serious examination of ideologies that slander and libel me. They have made medical decisions guaranteed to subvert my health without a medical degree and without my consultation. Nay, they've made it perfectly clear through a campaign of intimidation that we better not say a goddamn thing about any of this. On the other hand, they've used the expertise of doctors with a losing track record who've clearly taken the side of treason in this Civil War II that we got going on, which we've already won, by the way. They use this as an excuse to harass us. I will easily demonstrate that. Again, I'll eagerly await your numbers. That's why I wanted to sit down. I wanted to talk these people off the cliff. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to shove them over. Maybe. I hope the game isn't too rigged. The long term, we're going to win. But I'm talking 40, 50 years. But not within this time bank. I'm not going to give you the name of my company. It's corporate America. They're all at war with white man. I am confident my case is actionable. I have a meeting with the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission on August 4th. Whether or not they give my case an honorable hearing, we'll see. I'd like to think so. Again, those organizations are full of cat ladies, so who knows? But I could be surprised. I could be very happy. Regardless of what happens, I'll see what to do after that. But I'm not stopping. The company that fired me has put another white man there on notice that he will also be fired if he makes the tiniest mistake. Why? Because we have this increasingly elaborate gauntlet of humiliation that we have to pass through just to get on the damn job, allegedly for our health, for this Chinese virus. And he just got fed up and mouthed off at somebody. Threatened to fire a white man from his job for that. Firing anybody. But you can only get away with that because he's white. Now let's start with talking about me. Get some context going. I'm not the friendliest guy on the job. I mean, I'm not unfriendly. But the reality is my IQ and my interests are kind of a barrier between everybody else. I have these obscure topics that I'm interested in and fly at a pretty high level. So what are we really going to talk about? And it's kind of unfair to me. I mean, we could chit-chat. That's kind of fine. I'm very good at that. But there's not going to be anything really fulfilling and gratifying come out of that. This is the best job I've ever had in my life. But I'm fantastically underemployed. So I don't really have any natural peers to talk to. So that can be something, a point against me. So when people teaming up on me, things like that, the social networking stuff, the getting your allies and everything, that probably killed me. My goal as an employee, though, is pretty straightforward. Wherever the supervisor puts me, he never has to worry about it. And when I train new hires, that's exactly the attitude I tell them to have. And that should tell you something about me, because there's only 2 people in this entire plant who are allowed to train new hires, and I'm one of them. And there are hundreds of people in the plant. That's how much they like me. And the new hires like me too. There are 4 days in the class. I do the last day. It's the longest day. They tell me it's their favorite. And that it also seems like the shortest. Said it's the most fun. Now, I only just started running the training classes on my own, so I never got a chance to show my supervisors how brilliant I am and what I can do for them. Now, I'm not vain. False modesty is a vanity. I am well aware that many gifts have been given to me by God without any merit on my part, but I'm also aware that to whom much is given, much is expected. So just because you have smaller gifts doesn't mean you're any worse than me. All this will get balanced out after the resurrection. Now, here's what I was going to do. Now, this company, just like many other manufacturing companies, has a visual organization scheme called 5S. You should look it up. You'll love it. 5S your kitchen, 5S your garage. You will thank me. That's exactly what I tell my new hires what to do. Sort, set, shine, standardize, sustain. Guess what? Your body uses 5S. All of biology uses 5S. Especially that first part, sort. And one aspect of sort is lose it if you're not going to use it. Now, I was working on a way to create a good personal health care routine for new hires. Use 5S to do that. And use that personal health care routine that I got out of 5S to teach them about the principles of 5S. It's fantastic. Now, both of these are critical for our jobs. 5S, of course, visual organization, because we're in manufacturing, you need a place for everything in its place, but we're also on our feet 11.6 hours a day. And it tends to wear you down, especially as you get older. There are a lot of people running around with autoimmune diseases and stuff, so I can help. Especially women, they get past the change, their bones start getting denser. That's going to show up in a bit. Now, obviously, since exercise can be inherently dangerous, I would always start this section with consult your doctor before starting any exercise program. Now, here's how I would have said. I would have started with this. See what you think. Birds would rather not fly. It takes a lot of energy. So when they get on islands where they don't have any natural predators, they lose the ability to fly. Koala bears in Australia, cute guys with the round ears on top, they're really dumb. But in the past, they were a lot smarter. Well, what happened? Well, they started eating only eucalyptus leaves. And eucalyptus leaves just sit on the tree waiting to be eaten. So a lot of the complex movements that they needed to stay alive in the past, they didn't need to do anymore. Well, all of these complex movements need a physical brain infrastructure. So you didn't need the movement, you don't need the brain, so they got rid of the brain power. They ditched it. It's the same with your immune system. It's a big, complex system that requires a lot of work. If your body's not using it, it's going to ditch it. I heard that personally from a doctor. Any person who studied the immune system will tell you that. Now think about it. You go to the gym and you work out for years, and then you stop working out for years, and for a whole year. Are you going to hit the weights like you used to when you go back to the gym? Of course not. You'll put yourself in the hospital. So if you're wearing masks and doing all this neurotic hand washing and wipe downs and social distancing, you better have a damn good reason for doing that. And the Chinese virus is not. Maybe at its peak, which was mid-April, as you will see. Not now. There is no doubt that this is unnecessary now. And my governor, and my company have no right to force this bullshit on me. And that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted to explain the dynamics of this situation and get ongoing feedback that I needed to let them know that they take this seriously. Maybe we would have carried on with this. Certainly, since the governor's been bribed or blackmailed, certainly we would have now, but we don't know that because they fired me. Now, sort has that lose it if you're not going to use it aspect, but there's another aspect. If you're going to use it a lot, keep it close. Now, a good example of that is fat. Now, when you think of fat, you're mostly thinking about the subcutaneous fat. That's stuff that's right under the skin. It's the long-term energy reserves that your body needs for an emergency. And it's fairly hard for your body to get to. As we all know, obesity in America, but there's also a second kind of fat. It's called visceral fat. It's right around the organs, and it's meant to be instantaneously pulled up. I mean, I worked out for years. I had a lot of fat, but virtually no subcutaneous fat. Now, this is very important in a pinch. So you have the stuff harder to get to, far away, nearby, easy to get to. Your fat has been 5S'd. Huh? It's been sorted. Now, here's the interesting part. Subcutaneous fat has no impact whatsoever on your health, on the health of your heart. Now, there might be hormone stuff that's going on later. It's the visceral fat that kills you. If you don't move, you have to keep moving. That's important. It's weird. If you look at the MRI of sumo wrestlers in Japan, the big fat guys, that's all subcutaneous. You know how you look at these wrestlers with their gorgeous bodies and their six-pack abs? It's weird, but if you look at a sumo wrestler in an MRI, you see the gorgeous wrestler with the six-pack abs underneath this ocean of fat. It's very strange, but after they stop moving, the visceral fat starts building up, and that's when they have their heart attacks. And only after you stop moving, by the way. You have to keep moving. To not move, if you don't move, you're going to die. Now, your immune system is also sorted, and this is going to be important. Most of your immune cells are in the intestines, waiting to spring out into action. You know, if you need something all the time, keep it nearby. It's right there in the center. Most, like 80-90% of your immune cells are in your digestive system. So you want to take care of your digestive system. You take care of that, you're going to go a long way taking care of your immune system, right? Stands to reason. So have some bone broth, especially chicken bone broth. Ooh, it's very good for that. Don't be cheap. Get the pasture raised. Have fermented food like kimchi or pickles. And I love the big old thing of sauerkraut from Costco. That's also very good. Get the stuff in the refrigerated section, because the shelf stable stuff that you can get out on the shelves, it's not any good for you. Now, none of this is going to do you any good if by word and by deed you were telling your body you no longer need an immune system. And since this is all political and doesn't have a damn thing to do with our health, who knows how long they're going to keep this stuff going. These people running my company are not stupid. You all know I'm telling you the truth. I would be very disappointed. I don't think you are. Our CEO, now I'm talking nasty about him, but our CEO is actually a self-made man. Respect. I have a lot of respect for that man. But nevertheless, he's doing other stuff in here that I'm going to talk about. Now, the body has intimately linked the health of your brain with the health of your cardio. So if you do cardio, you're helping your brain. If you do cardio, when you do cardio, your brain has something called neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons. If you have cardio, you do cardio, neurogenesis increases tenfold. Your attitude gets better, improves. Your demeanor improves. Your mental flexibility improves. Win, 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 win. And here's the great news. High intensity interval training, HIIT. 10 minutes a HIIT is as good as 30 minutes of jogging for your cardio. Yes. And what's even better is it also works your muscles. Now, none of the pulling stuff for the guns. You have to do something else for that. You can do the cardio. 10 minutes is as good as 30 minutes of jogging. There are dozens of free HIIT routines on YouTube. Do 10 minutes in the morning before you come into work. It revs up your metabolism all day. But wait, there's more, because jogging is actually bad for your bones. I didn't know that. HIIT is excellent for your bones, because HIIT, typically they're folding in something called plyometrics, okay, jumping exercise. And the number one goal of plyometrics, the principle of plyometrics is you bounce like a ball and not splat like a tomato, to be real bouncy, springy. It trains you to do that. I just finished reading the Iliad. And Homer talks about the springy knees of a warrior, how important those are. Okay? Now, here's something interesting. Jogging prompts your body to pull calcium out of your bones because you don't need it for jogging. And probably, I suspect, your body's thinking, oh, he wants to go fast, so let's lighten up those bones. But when you're doing the plyometrics routine, that's anything with a bounce. So if you're doing a push-up and at the top you bounce off the floor and land again, anything like that, that's going to be a plyometric push-up. When you do plyometrics, your body needs to fortify your bones, so it puts calcium in. Your body will do what you tell it to do. You don't do it, your body does. Now, in these circumstances, your body also desperately needs collagen to build the bones, to build the muscle, to build the tendons, all that kind of stuff needs to get built up. You need collagen for that. And you get collagen from bone broth. Behold the power of 5S. Isn't that amazing? Now, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about the personnel department about, but they fired me. Ooh, you better get those checkbooks ready. I don't care if everybody's doing it. I don't give a rat's ass. It's not my problem. I'm the citizen of a republic. You're retarded If you don't understand that, move to China. I'm not kidding. Move to China. If you want to live like that. Good God. Don't be a swine, you're a pearl. What is wrong with you? That's what's so infuriating. I know that people get caught in their heads. I don't hate, but they're going to have to put some energy in here. Now, just as I know the virus is not a problem for working age white men like me, it's killing older men though. Not that anybody cares because they're white, right? So who gives a rat's ass? It's not a problem for us, but I know it's been a problem for African Americans and for Hispanics. Now, and I add this, and I will back this up 100%, it's less and less of a problem now than it ever has been. It's getting to be even less of a problem. The troublemakers know this. They planned on it. They worked that into their plans. I'll show you that. You can't fool me. That's my gift from God. Coup de ya. Blow of the eye. I can break shit down. Don't fuck with me. Now, people put a lot of work in trying to convince us white men that that's our fault. That African Americans and Hispanic, are dying so often from the coronavirus. They can't get access to health care. Really? Can they get access to a cup of green tea with ginger? Is white power stopping them from getting to that? Is it stopping them from doing 2 minutes of HIT or looking it up on YouTube or Google? Although use DuckDuckGo because DuckDuckGo does not spy on you. Does white power stop them from doing that? Does white power stop them from taking a long walk after a heavy meal? Because that's good for your blood sugars. There are all sorts of tiny things you can do that can help you help your health over the long haul. I ain't got nothing to do with you not following up on this. You're the citizen of a republic. Behave that way. Take some responsibility for your life. Don't wait for other people to fix your problems. So this African American woman, let's go into exactly what happened. She's freaking out about this rapidly evaporating threat to her community, especially those with pre-existing conditions. As I told you, it's rapidly evaporating. And again, it's not my fault. They don't do their due diligence. I understand the problem. And I'm not an asshole. People get caught in their heads. Even corporate people are with this whole Chinese virus thing. I understand it's cool. But, you fired me from my job and you humiliated me. There's a time for anger. And if you're not angry when you're supposed to be angry, you're a freaking coward. So when I'm doing this 5S program, guess who I'm thinking about? Guess what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about Corona. I'm thinking about African Americans. I'm thinking about Hispanics. I'm like, I can't do anything about what's happening right now. It's too late for that. But I can do this because I'm going to get a lot of Hispanics and African Americans in my classes, and I think I can help with this. I'll do what I can. That in prayer. I would have loved to talk to my company about this, but they fired me. They listen to everybody but me. Now, she clearly knew what my attitude was. And I could see she was getting worked up in a lather over this. This has been building up for like a month. So I stayed away from the topic. Now, she made this into a race thing. Here's how I know. The guy got in trouble. The way I found out about what happened to him is she told me. And then she says he's a Trump voter, which means he's a white guy. Like we don't have a right to look out for ourselves. Well, to show due diligence towards our interests. Look out for yourself means I don't care about you. I care about you. I don't not care about anybody. Now, here's the thing about her, and it sounds like I'm dumping on her. She's really reacting to flawed assumptions and ideologies that we're not allowed to question in modern day America, which is why we're in the middle of Civil War II. And we are in the middle of Civil War II, which we've already won, by the way. Had a video of that, I'll link below. She's stubborn, her breaks are too long, she wanders all around the plant, yapping too much. Yapping, that's going to be important. She has problems with the supervisor because she's white. One of those you ain't the boss of me moments she had. Very early, just show you how concerned she was about the virus. Early on, we're supposed to wear masks in our meeting where you have a fairly closed-in room, and she didn't have her mask on. She wouldn't put her mask on. She was just hanging there. And our white female supervisor was looking at her like, shouldn't you put your mask on? Now, you can blame her for being weak, but It's the dynamic. We know this dynamic. I don't have to explain this to you. Now, just because I love her and love the personnel people, even though I'm pretty mad at them, it doesn't mean that I should let them get away with this. That's enabling. Enabling is not another face of love. I know a lot of people think that, but it's not. It's not a problem being mad at somebody. The right time and the right place, at the right amount for the right reason. So what precipitated the big problem is I taught a class. One of the students claims to have tested positive for the Chinese virus. I don't believe him. He said he was exposed the day after his last day, and then he tested the day after that, and he came up positive. That's impossible. So the woman found out about this. Now, I taught that class only 1 of 4 days, and there was a new hire there who came into our module, and on our shift, she was there all 4 days. And they never, okay. And also I stayed 15 feet away from this guy. I certainly didn't kiss him. I mean, there's no way I got this virus. And indeed, I tested. I did not have the virus. The woman found out about this positive test from a class. This is actually the second class that had a guy with positive in it. The other one was taught by the other guy. And here she goes running around, talking. She came to talk to me about how we trainers, I guess, a threat to the safety of the people in the plant. I couldn't quite understand what the hell she was talking about. I could see she was upset. Once again, I'm a working class white man. I can give a flip about the Chinese virus. If you're worried about it, stay home. So when I found out about the Chinese virus positive case, that day I got a text from a hospital saying, here's where you can get a test for the Chinese virus. Of course, they say corona or COVID. And I thought, well, I guess the company wants me to test, just in case, abundance of caution, no big deal. I told a couple of people, maybe her, I don't know. It's kind of funny. Sure, I'll take the test. Well, she went on, talking, stirring everybody up for 2 days. At least 2 days. I heard a conversation on the day before the final events, and I only realized later she's talking about me. And that morning I came into work and I'm like, where is she at? And one of the guys says, oh, she's here. And she was talk. She was on a rampage. Talk. She was going crazy. I mean, and then there was this big explosion, people coming up to me. And then she came up to me later and I guess basically accusing me of trying to kill black folks with COVID. Don't you know there are people around here with pre-existing conditions and all that kind of stuff? And the people started walking up to me and walking up to the supervisors and saying that if I didn't leave, they were going to leave. And so they walked me out of the fab. But the woman who was also in class with the guy stayed. Now, the woman in charge of personnel in my plant is from India. And I remember when she introduced herself to the plant, I hate to sound like an asshole, or a racist, but there are practical reasons why I was annoyed to see that. Why are you in charge of our personnel department? Your people are not our people. Your gods are not our gods. What do you understand about the ins and outs of the indigenous culture? You don't know what you're doing, and it turns out she didn't. When she talked to me on the phone, she scolded me like I was a child for talking about the text. The virus is not a problem for me. It is a rapidly evaporating problem. I'm not the one that's freaking out. You are. I'm not the one that has a campaign of intimidation going on against white people so that we don't talk about this in defense of ourselves. This is the way it is all the time. People cause trouble. I can't visit an airport anymore because I have Muslims flying into planes. China committed an act of war, indeed an act of race war terrorism when it launched that virus. And it knew damn well what it's doing. It knew exactly what it was doing. We know this because they destroyed evidence, murdered critical witnesses, and locked the Hubei province off from the rest of China while they let thousands of people go into northern Italy and carry that virus into northern Italy. And before then, they had this little campaign up there how, oh, these people are racist against Chinese. You know, I'm starting to warm up to this idea of being racist. It would have protected these dumb northern Europeans, northern Italians who went up, had a hug a Chinese person campaign. Please come hug me because I'm Chinese and everybody's mean to me. So why are you here? Who stuck a gun to your head? Oh my God. So we got lots of people dead in northern Italy, and from northern Italy, it moved over into New York City. Now, I've been watching a lot of YouTube channels on the military. I love that kind of stuff. I don't watch anything anymore. Everybody hates white men. I can't even watch anything anymore. Although Disney's starting to panic because Star Wars was a catastrophe. I mean, they're really starting to freak out. That's what you get for insulting us. I mean, we're the ones paying the bills for this stupid thing. So I've been watching the YouTube military channels, and I'm very happy to report that Donald Trump considers it an act of war. He's treating it that way. Now, why did the Chinese do this? Black Lives Matter. How'd all these black folks get killed? You did it. You're the one responsible for this. Because you've been talking all this trash about us white people, and they believed it. They bought into that nonsense. We're lazy, we're stupid, we're entitled, we're lucky, we're weak. And they also thought they were safe behind their walls of nuclear ballistic missiles. You're going to find out the hard way that we're not stupid at all. You could even build an aircraft carrier. Even with a conventional engine, you gave up. You know what the hell you were doing. We got a third generation nuclear aircraft carriers come along. They're going to have phaser banks and force shields. If we can, by the end of this decade, if we can track it, we can knock it out of the sky. And by God, we can track nuclear ballistic missiles easily. You're not safe from us. No, ma'am. Yet, while the fact that this was an act of war is obvious to anybody who's not a moron and who pays attention, who really thinks this through, and most of us haven't, because we only have so much time in the day. While this is obviously true, we white men are not allowed to say a damn thing about it. We're not allowed to talk about the weapon that they used to sucker punch us with, the Chinese virus. Oh, just shut your mouth, you filthy, lying, racist white man. That's all we get. We can't even shut our borders to defend ourselves. Oh, shut your mouth, you filthy, lying, racist white man. And my company is enabling this kind of behavior. You brought it into my workplace. So we can't process our anger. We can't pursue justice. We don't even call it the Chinese virus. Now, it's called COVID-19 because the Chinese are the ones who are part of that renaming process, just to throw the heat on us. Now, in the beginning, I was charitable. You can look at my videos. I call it Corona, COVID-19. I wanted to give the Chinese an opportunity to save face, to make good what they did to us without too much of a fuss. Now, I ain't got to do a damn thing. Chinese virus, terrorism. That's exactly what this is. Now, meanwhile, traitors at home, both corporate and political, are using this opportunity to slander and libel my race. We were the target of an act of race war terrorism. And this has turned into a referendum of exactly how evil am I? Exactly how evil are we white people? On a scale of 1 to 10. 10? 9? 8? Yeah, that's true. Surely no lower than 8. Boy, you better be very careful about who you pick a fight with. And in this ongoing campaign against white men, as I said, my ex-company is part of it. Let me give you an example of this. In a campaign of slander and libel directed against Texas, which used to have a governor with a backbone, spies for China, traitors in alliance with China in New York and in the media, talk up the rise of Chinese virus cases here in Texas. Now, they don't ever talk about the fact that it's because we're getting more people tested. And yes, another problem, young people are not being careful. They need to be more careful. But young people are never careful. People's brains don't fully develop till they're like 25 years old. And they're refusing to make the distinction between people who have the Chinese virus who are carrying it on the one hand and, let me get my wording correctly, and the deaths and the hospitalizations of Chinese viral terrorist victims. Marching to the streets talking about us white folks. We build the infrastructure that allows the people who survive in your community to survive. It's the yellow people who did that, but you don't give a rat's ass because you're a fraud, all of you. Unbelievable. Our goal has never been to stop the spread of the virus. That will not happen. The virus will have its day. Our only goal is to slow it down, to make sure it doesn't burn out our hospitals, save as many people as we can. In this, we in Texas, as you will see, succeeded fantastically. A hell of a lot better than New York did. I'm going to discuss what I think was going on in New York because they're lying about something. All viral infections have a bell curve. They trickle in, they explode to their peak, and then they burn out. Corona is no different. We are literally going to see the bell curve. We're on the trailing end of the back half of that bell curve. As the troublemakers know, they folded it into their plans, and I will show it to you. Now, in the beginning, it was scary. We had no idea what was going on because part of the act of race war terrorism is the Chinese aren't telling us. Now, there's a company that sells Bluetooth thermometers. Bluetooth, so you can talk to your phone, uploads to the servers if you want, and they can have flu weather maps. We should have this many fever weather maps. We should have just many fevers because we have flus, and then boom, 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 here comes Corona, well above the expected. And boy, this is going to be bad. And then to keep track as a proxy for what happens afterwards nationally, not for Texas, as I'll discuss. It wasn't until last couple of weeks. Last week's on record. But to track it, you can go to the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and we're gonna do that. You can look at a graph of unexpected deaths. It's a good proxy for that. Okay? Now, as I work this data, I want to make something very clear to you. I'm not an eyeball for advertisers. I'm not a consumer. I'm not an employee for a company that follows a policy. I'm the citizen of a republic. My company bore fruit in the ground of a Republican institution. And as a citizen, I take my duties seriously. When I make important decisions as a citizen of a republic, I query my data aggressively. I make sure I have the best sources that I can get my hands on. I do that here on all my videos. This is how I view my health, as I discussed. This is why I'm kind of annoyed at the African American community for blaming me for not doing your job as citizens of a republic. I take all this seriously. So as I go into this, if you're tempted to scold me and tell me that I just need to listen to the experts, yeah, once again, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. March 7th, we get a flicker. 2 people here in Texas told me they probably got hit with the virus about this time, including the white guy at my company. In fact, everyone in his household got it one after the other, and in each case they had different symptoms. March 14th still seems to be lurking. March 21st looks like it's pounced, taking a little bite out. Now, I'll remind you, at the time they were telling us that it was affirmatively bad for us to wear masks. And at this time, they still had the goodwill of men like me. Nobody had any idea what was coming because we weren't getting good data from the Chinese. All part of the race war terror campaign they were conducting against us. And many politicians are conducting against us now. March 28th, it's definitely here. April 4th, it builds. Nevertheless, the fever weather maps tell us that we've not only clamped down on the Chinese virus, we've clamped down on the flu itself. Fever rates drop like a rock. April 11th, it builds. April 18th, we're at the top of the bell curve. April 25th, we start to drop. May 2nd, we drop. May 9th, drop. Texas is opening. About this time, we're getting reports that antibody tests are showing that this virus has spread to a hell of a lot more people than we thought, and is therefore not as deadly as we thought, not nearly as deadly. Even worse for you neurotics, the virus is often fought off by a process called cell-mediated immunity, and that does not use antibodies. So this test would not work on these people. It wouldn't show that they had the virus. Older immune systems rely more heavily on cell mediation as do immune compromised people. And in fact, the cytokines produced by the response can get out of control with a cytokine cascade. This is often what kills older and immune-compromised patients. Patients who take weeks to recover from the viral attack, the so-called long tail, probably fought it off with cell-mediated immunity. And here's what's most important. The ball we were told we needed to keep our eyes on for the lockdown. Our hospitals were actually laying off staff because they didn't have enough work. The reason we locked down in the first place is because we didn't want to overwhelm hospitals, flatten the curve, not stop the virus. We're never going to do that. Manage it so that it doesn't overwhelm our hospitals. So we white men started marching in the streets, demanding we be allowed to go back to work. The universal response: shut your lying, filthy, racist mouth, white man. May 16th, drop. May 23rd, drop. May 30th, drop. June 6th, drop. June 13th, virtually no excess deaths. Now, let's look at death rates per 100,000 per state. New Jersey and New York, numbers 1 and 2 with a bullet. They're clearly lying about something. Frankly, I think a lot of doctors were murdering their patients. They forced retirement homes to accept Chinese viral clients. They encouraged New Yorkers to be out and about way longer than they should have, knowing this virus is on the way, and knowing for a fact New Yorkers were going to get harder than anyone else. This is one of the lessons they explicitly learned from 9/11. They made it illegal for pharmacies to fill prescriptions for hydroxychloroquine, forcing people to get it from the New York hospital system. With all this in mind, with these numbers, with these troubling stories we're hearing, I have to wonder, were there doctors delaying or denying treatment with this fantastically successful drug? Bet we can find out. Louisiana, Michigan with Detroit, Illinois with Chicago, large African American communities. This is important. This is what caused the fight at work. It's also coming back around to bite them in the ass. Where's Texas? All the way down here. 9 out of every 100,000. So let's look at Texas. I work for a Texas company. Here on the dashboard, it's easy to figure out what the odds are of you dying of the virus once you catch it. It is that, and only that information, that my company should be basing its decisions on. Because remember, we're not going to stop the virus. Can we manage the damage? That's the only thing we can do. As of July 4th, 2,608 deaths. That's a straightforward number, and that would be our numerator. There, bigger is worse. Number of confirmed cases, about 191,790. This is our denominator. There, bigger is better. We can see that a little more than 2.3 million tested. There are 29 million people in Texas, so only 8% of the population has been tested. So that tells us that roughly 2.3 million were actually carrying the virus as of the time they took the test, which means the odds of dying from the virus are about 0.1% if you actually catch it, 1 out of 1,000, and most people won't. And here's my math if you don't believe me. Now remember, the bigger the denominator, the better, and my denominator does not include people, and we know these people existed, who got the virus maybe the day after they took the test, or the day before they took the test, as I've already discussed, or the people who we know existed who had the virus and got over it before they took the test. You might actually be able to double the number of that denominator to make it 1 out of 2,000. Now there were 76 deaths yesterday, which is higher than usual, up from the 50 or so the day before. And the fraction did jump a little from over 0.00108, a little more than that, to 0.001096. The number you see here. That's statistically irrelevant, but I thought I should mention it for the sake of due diligence. In all fairness to our governor, he probably knows a thing or two that I don't. But I don't think we have a New York tsunami on the way, or even a Michigan one. I do think we might have some grim catching up to do. Now remember, all this time, the clock is ticking on our immune systems because we're keeping it muzzled, and it's degrading. The excess death graph, filtered for Texas only, seems to support that. There was a sudden spike in excess deaths June 13th and the week before. But even that doesn't clear things up much because when you filter for non-Chinese virus-related deaths, you see that virtually all of that spike is from deaths not related to the Chinese virus. So in the case of Texas, this is actually not a good proxy for the Chinese virus at the beginning of June. Very different for the United States in general. The gaps are split almost evenly into 3 parts. Some weeks, non-Chinese virus deaths were larger than expected. Some weeks, they were smaller than expected. Some weeks, they were spot on. Now, obviously, we need to explain the gap. It's possible, and I would say likely to a large extent. It's possible and likely that we're just undercounting our COVID deaths. Our Chinese virus deaths. Got to be careful about our terminology. You know, maybe we have 500 more or 1,000 more, but if you're going to say we have actually twice as many deaths as we're reporting, you're going to have to prove that. To me, it doesn't matter whether I'm right, but it only matters that we get this right. So this is the spirit that the next thing is coming from. Remember, for the denominator, the bigger, the better. And you are 100% certain this denominator is too small. So any change in the numerator, unless you're looking at a big underreporting of COVID deaths, like massive, and trust me, people are watching Texas, they would know. They would know. These people running around here who hate us are a lot smarter than I am. If I know it, they know. Okay? It's not going to have a big impact on my odds calculation. Now remember, and this could be part of it, although why it would happen the last 2 weeks on record, I don't know why. We were telling you, when you were freaking out back in April, I was saying this, Tucker Carlson was saying this on Fox News, this isn't revisionist history, we were telling you that you need to stop freaking out. You need to open up the hospitals to more elective procedures, because otherwise you're going to kill a lot of people with heart attacks and cancer who otherwise would have survived. And doctors are reporting that. That might be part of what's going on here. Who knows? Maybe there's a bunch of snake bites going on. And I'm going to follow up on that, because I'm like, what is going on here? Now, my case is about as close as you can get to bulletproof. The odds of you dying of this virus in Texas, if you even get the virus, and most people are not, are so ridiculously small, and getting more ridiculously small every single week. Now, again, our enemies know that, and they've been planning around it, as I will prove in spectacular, exquisite detail. The national excess death numbers are telling us the wave peaked and I was on the way out, as I've discussed. Sure enough, I've been randomly coming up to the Texas dashboard numbers and running these calculations. Each time I run the calculations over the last couple of weeks, randomly, the odds get smaller and smaller and smaller. So my company, provably, is actively forcing me and other white men to engage in neurotic behavior, explicitly designed to subvert our health. Oh, hell yeah. Of course they were. That's why they're talking about getting black folks out of passing these laws where white people have to wear them but not black people. You want to weaken our immune system. And by the way, humiliate us. Like this gauntlet had to go through just to get to work. And these are overall numbers for Texas. They're even better for working age white men like me. So in my private life, before the governor got bought and paid for or blackmailed or whatever, I didn't wear masks in public. Unless the business wanted me to, even if they didn't require it, and I still don't do any extra hand washing. It's not a political decision, it's a healthcare decision. I've just demonstrated that it's a damn good one. Now, Donald Trump, and everybody likes to talk trash about Sweden. A lot of people are dismayed that Donald does this. I think I trust him now. I didn't for the longest time. Talk about that in the video on Donald Trump is winning Civil War II. My evolving views towards him. I trust him. Donald Trump is reacting to things that we don't see. So he's trashing Sweden along with everybody else. Why? Because Sweden refused to do a lockdown. So, what happened in Sweden? Death rates above normal were 27%, higher than Denmark, but lower than Belgium, lower than France, lower than the UK, lower than Italy, lower than Spain, not much higher than ours. Why was it so high relative to the other Nordic countries? Why was anybody's high? Why are Germany and Denmark and Norway's so low? I have no idea. Maybe Sweden has a lot more old people than they have. In fact, the deaths of men over 80 accounted for the largest increase in deaths. And maybe their policy is responsible for that. Or maybe not. Either way, the only thing that's important to me is not that I be right, but that we get this right. It's going to be another year before we can sort through this competently. What broke the spine of any respect that I had for the leadership of my company came after our CEO sent an email in response to the homicide of George Floyd at the hands of Officer Derek Chauvin. Now notice I call it homicide, not murder. He's overcharged. He's either going to walk or they're going to put him in a kangaroo court. If he walks, probably going to be more riots, which is probably the plan. It's not murder. He did kill the guy. The hold did kill him. But the hold was only the final straw. George Floyd had been abusing drugs, probably for years, if not decades. He didn't do his due diligence on protecting his heart and taking care of it. Officer Chauvin could not have known and wasn't expected to know that this hold, used more than 200 times by Minneapolis police, was going to kill this guy. So first you rub the Chinese virus neurosis in my face, and you, good God, every week I come into work, there's an increasingly elaborate gauntlet of social control and humiliation that I have to pass through just to get to my freaking job, including facial recognition screens last I was there. Then you turn around and bend the knee to Black Lives Matter and pay, and let's be honest here, protection money to some racket passing itself off as a civil rights group. I know why you did it. It's to save you from the stew pot when these people come to power. But you don't have to worry. You have merely lost money. It would have been a lot worse. This is as far as they're going to get. We've already beat them. It's just all downhill from here for them. It'll take years to break down this infrastructure of terror that supports them. Decades. It took decades to build it. It's kind of like how we beat the Japanese at the Battle of Midway. When we got lucky again, because that's the way we are. We're lucky because they outnumbered us. That's the only way we could have beaten them, because we're lazy and entitled and lucky. But after we beat the Japanese at the Battle of Midway, it was under 3.5 years of war with the Empire of Japan. But it was our war to lose. That's basically where we're at now. But if they'd succeeded, your craven behavior would not have saved you. Their message is quite clear. We white men must obey all of their laws. We must carry on with our fantastic Protestant work ethic with great cheer, and they can do whatever the hell with us that they want. Steal from us, rape our women, molest our children, murder us. In a word, we are their slaves, as far as they're concerned. That's the only justice that can be had. What word would you use? Look at what they say about us. If we're like they say we are, what do you suppose should be done with us? I think slavery is the least that should be done with us. Yeah. Draw proper conclusions. Think through this. By the way, these people, their counterpart is not Mother Teresa and the Sisters of Mercy. It's Stormfront. It's Daily Stormer, Andrew England, the alt-right. That's their counterpart. That's who you're sympathizing with. Those alt-right people, they got their sad stories too. Everybody got their sad story. Good Lord. And if we dare, as their happy slaves, show even the slightest bit of resistance, nay, even lack of good cheer and gratitude towards them, because they are so manly and so real, then they feel they have the God-given right to make life a living hell for us before they kill us. Slowly. Behold, Black Lives Matter supporters who are learning the rules of our brave new world the hard way. They're so pissed off that these two affable liberals have proven that guns save lives, they're ready to tear them limb from limb. That's not a metaphor. That's what they like to do. They like to kill you slowly because it's so fun watching you tortured. These people are demonic. And you brought this spirit into my workplace, where I work hard to put food on my table and a roof over my head. And you let these people slander me and humiliate me. And you hide behind these phrases, these little phrases like corporate policy and abundance of caution. Like you have no obligation whatsoever to society that you live in. It's our country too. We have rights too. So let's finish with a question. Did your masters unleash these Black Lives Matter protests, even though they knew there was a very good chance it was going to kill a bunch of Negroes? I mean, who cares, right? We got an email from Hillary Clinton. They're all sociopaths. 1997. Not that long ago. The Trump's a racist. I'm a racist. Okay. Well, did they do this knowing it was kill a bunch of black folks? Or did they do this knowing that it wasn't going to be a problem? Let's find out. Bell curve. Bell curve. Bell curve. Told you these guys were coming back around. Happy Independence Day. Make yourself worthy of it.